Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the DGS Presents YouTube channel. Um, we have the Monster of the Month for February, but since this particular creature is in the news these days, I figured it just had to be the Orc. And with me is Saint Cuthbert here, otherwise known as DM Greg. So, Greg, have you heard the news?
I have not, but I'm excited, and that's why I'm here. So you told me something about some fictitious fantasy monsters are, what do you call it? When it's taboo?
I apparently they are. So in the new edition of the Monster Manual, coming out from Wizards of the Coast for 5th edition, which you and I don't typically play, but I thought it was worth noting. In the Monster Manual, orcs are going to be removed.
Is it 5th or 5.5 or 6th?
Oh yeah, I guess it is like 5.5, right? I guess it's no longer 5th edition. It would be some.
So the new Monster Manual isn't going to have orcs?
That is correct. And I also have heard that they are not going to have drow in there as monsters. And Dugar, is that how you pronounce them? Dugar, the evil, were they gnomes?
Little dwarves.
Little doors?
Yeah, the evil version of them.
Yeah, so they will not be in there either. So this Monster Manual, I believe, comes out February 18th from Wizards of the Coast. And as apparently these creatures have been taken out for variety of reasons. Not quite clear why they did it. It looks like
they're offensive, aren't they? I mean, fantasy, non-real creatures for a role-playing game have to be offensive.
Yeah. I mean, what's offensive about Dugar?
I don't know, but all I can say is Peter Jackson did a hell of a job with his orcs. So maybe I'll have to watch The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings all over again just to get my fill.
Yeah, just to get your fix on orcs. But
Right.
yeah, so I guess DMs can use in the system any of the 45 humanoid stat blocks now. And campaigns can now feature things like orc assassins, orc cultists, or orc gladiators, warriors, whatever. Instead of basically just having orcs as monsters. So apparently they're kind of like PCs that you can use. Now, back in the day, we had half orcs that we could play.
But they took those out in 2nd edition.
Did they take them out in 2nd edition?
Yeah, I think half orcs were removed in 2nd edition, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. We can take a look at that, but certainly they were in 1st edition, and even though those were like, it could be used as player characters or NPCs or whatever. But yeah, now they're completely changing the focus of the orc. And I guess I was reading a few things on forums and from different people like on EN World who are saying that orcs are no longer completely evil. We can't consider them evil. We have to consider them as like PCs. So this kind of thing. So
Right.
no, I don't like that. I mean, to me, orcs are evil, scary, and that guy looks a little more like a minotaur maybe. But they are intimidating creatures. And if we go back to
is that an AI orc? Did you generate that through AI art?
That is, yeah. I think that is, yeah. It was just in my files. So, but if we go back to the iconic orc from AD&D 1st edition, right? This is kind of how I picture them to look, and they look a little funny here, but again, this is the simple art from back in the day, right?
Well, I would have to think then if WOTC finds orcs offensive, then I'm looking at the 1st edition Monster Manual on page 76, 3rd paragraph down. If you have enough orcs, you got the risk of having ogres living amongst them. So when are they going to take ogres out of the Monster Manual? Because if the orc's offensive, wouldn't the ogre be offensive as well? They're best friends.
It could be, yeah. And interestingly enough, on the Monster Manual on page 40, it says that Ettins are related to orcs.
You know what? I never knew that. That's awesome.
That's true. And on page 76, of course, under the actual orc heading, it says orcs will breed with anything.
That I believe.
So, and in the second edition too, I think that the second edition, what language do they use? They said that it's something like they will mate with anything. There's all kinds of crossbreeds from orcs. So I guess it isn't just humans, right? It could be other things. That's how we get Ettins.
Well, why stop with just the orcs, the Drugar, and the drow? Why not goblins? I mean, goblins are basically in the same realm. They're fictitious. They're not real. And they have a big brother, right? The bugbear is a big goblin. They're cousins. So why stop here? I mean, we can just make everything a regular character class. That'd be fun. Not.
Gelatinous cube?
Oh, you got it. Yeah, the gelatinous cube orc. Would an orc really mate with a gelatinous cube? You said anything. I can only imagine what that looks like.
My player character is going to be rot grub.
Right.
I have no intelligence. I live inside a bottle.
Right. Well, I wonder. It is interesting where these things come from, right? The mentality of why would you create some specific monster in a fantasy game as being offensive when truly it doesn't exist. I mean, you can go through the monster manual. You can pull out ogre magi's, you can pull out ogres, and what is a vampire going to be offensive? They're as real as orcs, right?
True. Yeah, but if we so let's take a look at the orc real quick here, and see. Let's take a trip down memory lane and do a little nostalgia. Here we have our orc in the monster manual. Number of appearing 30 to 300.
Yeah.
So they swarm you, right? You're not just going to run across a couple. It's going to be a tribe. Standard AC is 6, standard movement 9, and they're only 1-hit die. 35% of the time they're in their lair. So, most of the time they're out marauding.
I would say, yeah, I agree with that. Their treasure types are just basically coins, right? Maybe some gems along the way. In lair, they might have some magical items, but very limited.
True. It says, let's see, L for treasure type, which is like miscellaneous, like coppers, like beads or whatever. There's also Q treasure type, and that is times 10. And if I'm correct on that, Greg, I think that's gems. So orcs like shiny gems, beautiful gems. They collect them. So you can find them with gems.
It is 50% chance of having 1 to 4 times 10. Yeah, that's true.
And then in layer, it says S in layer. So potions, I think, are S.
Yep, 2 to 8. 2 to 8 potions.
Right. So you won't find those potions on the orcs when they're out marauding, but you will find them in their lair. Number of attack 1. Very typical. Damage is 1d8 or by weapon type. And if you look on the screen there, we have our weapons, and they can pretty much use anything.
Right. Pole arms, swords, shields, axes, you name it.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, too, even though they look small in that picture, it says size medium.
6 foot plus.
Feet. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pushing the limits of the medium scaling. Medium switches to large just beyond 7 feet. So.
Yeah. So they're more like the Middle Earth Tolkienian orc.
Yeah. Well,
maybe like the guy we saw at the beginning, right?
Maybe they're being removed from the monster manual because look, they're not very smart.
Average low.
Yeah. Maybe that's why maybe the orc's the one that's upset. Maybe they asked to be removed because they're not very smart. They might be like, I don't like that.
True.
But they are evil.
Yes, they are. It says in the monster manual, it says orcs are cruel and hate living things in general, but they particularly hate elves, and they will always attack them in preference to other creatures. And they take slaves for work, food, and entertainment, torture, but not elves whom they kill immediately. So these guys are slavers.
Breeding. I thought you said they breed with anything.
Well, they might do that too. I mean, torture you, breed with you. I don't know.
Yeah. Of course, in a fake setting.
Correct. Right. Mm-hmm. So if we go back to let's say 5th edition, it's like, okay, it's like orcs are slavers. right? Like my PC, I want to be an orc, but I'm a slaver too. Yeah. Even in the second edition orc, they talk about how the orcs take slaves. And depending on the number of orcs that you encounter, right, they may have, for instance, like for every 30 orcs, there will be a leader with 8 hit points. And then if there's 150 orcs, they'll have like a sub chief with 11 hit points and 4 AC. And then beyond that, you'll actually have a chieftain who will be even stronger, being like 2 or 3 or 4 hit die. Right. And it actually says that it'll have retainers. There'll be other types of creatures involved. There might be an ogre in there, and there'll also be slaves.
Well, and other creature types have been known to take slaves as well in a fantasy fake environment, of course. So I can see why it'd be a problem. Is in Polly Kidd's book, Descent to the Depths of the Earth, right? You can even get it on you can get it on an audiobook as well and listen to it. You've got bugbears, drow. They're making slave trains going down to the Kotoa. So the Kotoa, maybe they should be removed from the books as well. I think I could see, I think they're onto something. They should eliminate all monsters, and then we just have PCs fighting each other. That's it.
There we go.
That's the answer.
Yeah. Now, orcs are also accomplished tunnelers and miners, and
they're fantastic tunnelers and miners.
Yes, and their layers are underground 75% of the time, but 25% of the time they might have a village of some kind.
Right.
So they live underground, these orcs. Now the second edition orc is a little harder to see here, but very, very similar to the first edition in terms of stats and behavior. But there's also this thing called the Aurug.
And I was going to say, if that was the orc picture in second edition, then I'd say, like, now I know why they're getting rid of it. I don't like that picture at all.
Yeah, that's not the best picture. Definitely,
it's not bad. It's just doesn't look like an orc, right? It looks like an ogre.
It does look like it, yeah, an ogre, and the Orog, I guess, are basically have ogre in them, and they're larger and more fearsome. Other than that, again, the behavior is the same. They're slavers, they're marauders, killers, and they're evil. I mean, they're lawful evil. In second edition, they're lawful evil in first edition, which means they have organization. There's hierarchy. Right. They're not just crazy,
right?
Chaotic evil. But they are evil, right? And this kind of gets into the point of, the bad guys should be bad. They should be scary. And I think if you make monsters into PCs or you turn them into Mexicans, they do that hard.
I don't know if that's possible, but
I mean, come on. Right. If you're doing it, it makes the monsters less intimidating, and it kind of makes a mockery out of the game, and it just gets kind of silly.
Well, in first edition, that's why with the half orc, it made sense as a PC class when it was added, right? It gave you that little twist of, it was more predominantly human than it was monster. So it was a playable class. And that was, I think, the differentiating factor between that and like a drow, right? You couldn't have a drow. Well, one, drows in daylight are basically powerless. So, there were limiting factors there from a playability perspective. So I just think it's all silly. Getting rid of these specific creatures for any reason is just silly because, one, they don't exist. They're fake. It's a fantasy game.
Yeah, and this whole idea of making scary, dangerous creatures from early AD&D or D&D into kind of playable characters or misunderstood people. Do you know where I think that actually goes back to? R.A. Salvatore. With the whole thing with Drizzt. Right. Oh, but he's just a misunderstood drow, right? And he's got his wolf or whatever with him, and it introduced this idea that drow are just, they're kind of cool. We kind of want to play with, use them as player characters. The drow also appeared as player characters in the video games, like the Baldur's Gate games.
Right.
You could play Viconia, I think was her name. But it should be noted, even in that game, which was based off second edition, came out, I think it was like 1998, Viconia is evil. So you can play her, you can add her to your party, but she is, I believe, lawful evil, and she creates problems for you in the game because she's evil and she does evil things. And your other party members may leave you, get angry about her presence there. So it isn't like the Drizzt books where he's just, a crusader out doing good things, right? She's still an evil version. It's still the proper drow, so to speak, right? I think when you first encounter her, she's like getting burned at the stake or something by townspeople. You can rescue her, right?
Right. I wonder if removing these monsters is going to make it more difficult for me to find a good 3D printed orc miniature. So I'd like to our viewers, if anyone knows of a good site for a good 3D printed orc that looks more like the first edition orc, not some of the ones out there that are like short and stocky and round and cute and cuddly, like a real good looking orc mini that can be 3D printed, please put it into the comments. Let us know. Link us to the site if you can. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Colin, honestly, I can't find a true, real good 3D printed orc. I've done some moderate looking. I'll have to do more. But maybe our viewers can help us.
Yeah, I mean, something that looks like an Uruk-hai, right?
Yes, absolutely. To find a 3D print of those versus just buying them from Warhammer, right? Is that where they're from? Warhammer, I think.
Yeah, 40K, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you consider them the same. So that's just, I don't play them.
Yeah, no, I don't play Warhammer. Yeah. I mean, they should look intimidating. They should be scary.
Like this guy,
little roly-poly. Yeah.
This dude is intimidating. Actually, you're kind of scaring me. Can we go back to the first edition orc?
Yeah, this guy would be like an orc chieftain, right? So versus the standard soldiers.
Yeah.
We see
these guys don't look that bad. They're not look how cute they are. His tongue's hanging out. He's got a round bald head. He's got a little snout. How bad can it be?
Yeah. So that is the monster of the month for February, the orc. I just felt we had to touch on it because even though it's such a common creature, but it's in the news.
That's right.
People are talking about it. So I thought we would just jump in and have a little fun. Again, for the audience, if you like this stuff, please, like and subscribe, comment, that'll be good. We're just doing this for fun. Again, we're not selling anything. We're just having a good time and going over all these old games and this fun stuff and engaging a little bit of nostalgia. So,
and now that orcs are going to be out of print, we can cover them on this channel.
That's true.
All right.
Okay, everyone. We will see you next time.